Hundreds of workers at Midwest Paper Group, formerly Appleton Coated, faced a highly uncertain future in 2017 when that company was auctioned off to an unknown buyer. Former Wisconsin State Assemblyman and Outagamie County Executive Tom Nelson details the story of how these workers and local officials stopped the sale and saved hundreds of jobs. In his new book, One Day Stronger, How One Union Local Saved a Mill and Changed an Industry and What It Means for American Manufacturing, author of One Day Stronger, Tom Nelson, also a candidate for Senator Ron Johnson's seat in 2022, joins us now. Great to see you, Tom. Welcome.
Great to be on.
So I have lots of things I want to talk to you about, but let's start with the book. What's the story that you're telling here, and what do you think the relevance is?
Well, I think, you read a lot of these stories. It's not unusual for a mill or any type of company manufacturing to go under and have to close. I mean, that's we've seen in the last 30 or 40 years, thanks to bad trade deals and other factors. But this is a story where the workers came together, and I joined the workers and a couple more community officials, and it went to receivership. And so we objected to the sale, which is something that you can do under Wisconsin law. And we prevailed on a judge to give us a second chance. And so we were purchased by an industrial scrap dealer from California, which of course they were going to scrap it. And it seemed like it was the end. But we realized that this was something that was worth fighting for. Not only were there hundreds of jobs at stake, but it was a way of life. The paper industry is a big part of our culture, our heritage. I mean, they don't call it the Paper Valley for nothing. And I think that there are some very important lessons. And this is a really good example about how organized labor can lead the way to change American manufacturing, because they were clearly the leaders in this case. They had a lot at stake, they fought hard, and they won.
Yeah, and do you think so? In this instance, organized labor, and you were working alongside them as a local elected official, you were able to sort of turn the tides. It's like a David and Goliath story. You're able to get the success. Do you think that the landscape is such that that's possible in most of these instances, or does there need to be a broader scale shift in the politics?
Well, I think one of the lessons we have here, and I should say also that it was about a year ago that this same approach was taken in Park Falls, Wisconsin, about 3 hours away from here, where also another paper mill went into receivership, and using the same strategies we implement. In fact, I worked a little bit on that, and one of the owner-managers, one of the local owners here, was a consultant. And so, the same thing happened. So I think this specific approach has been used and hopefully will continue to be used. But there is a general lesson here, and that is I'm proposing a tripartite model of labor, local business, and local government coming together, and in this case, saving a mill, saving 300 jobs, and not just a mill, not just some ordinary business, but a cornerstone of the economy. I mean, $300 million goes in and out of that mill every single year, and this is a community under 3,000. So, this is a really good example of how we can come together and create jobs.
So let's talk a little bit about politics as well. As I mentioned, you're running in the Democratic primary for Senate. I think it's really important for people to understand, you've been sort of a Bernie-aligned figure. You support Medicare for all. You also represent a county that, if I'm correct, went for Donald Trump. How are you able to pull that off? And how do you think that the Democratic Party is doing in the state of Wisconsin?
Well, I think it's the same secret that Bernie Sanders did back in 2016. Keep in mind that Bernie Sanders won the primary, won 71 out of the 72 counties. And I think the secret here is, of course, always be true to your values. And I've always been someone who has been a progressive. And I believe that a lot of the progressive issues, whether it's Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, $15 an hour minimum wage, these are all things that regardless if you are Republican, Democratic, or independent, these are issues that matter to you and your family and your community. What it comes down to is being honest, to being genuine, to trying to communicate and be able to talk about these issues, not just with Democrats, but also in independents and perhaps moderate Republicans. Whether you are a Democrat or Republican, these issues are always near the top. So really, it's no secret. It's just being honest and straightforward and talking about these issues in a way that anyone can understand and anyone can support.
What do you think was different about Biden's campaign in Wisconsin versus Hillary Clinton's? Why was he able to prevail, albeit narrowly, in that state where Hillary wasn't?
Well, I think President Biden took this state very seriously, did not take it for granted. If you remember 4 years ago, Secretary Clinton, never visited the state during the general election. Of course, that was a big mistake. Already, just a few months into President Biden's term, he has already made a visit here to Wisconsin. And I think part of the reason why is that this is, and I think will continue to be, the battleground state. And you mentioned here in Outagamie County and how this part of the state is traditionally a red part of the state. This area in particular will be a battleground area within this battleground state. So, these races recently have been decided by 20 or 25,000 votes. That was approximately the margin that Donald Trump won back in 2016. It was the margin that Democratic Governor Tony Evers won in 2018, about the margin that President Biden won last year.
Talk to me about the dynamics in the Democratic primary in which you are a candidate. What are the differences between the candidates, and what do you think is at stake?
Well, I feel like I'm living a Bernie Sanders stump speech. I'm running against millionaires and billionaires. And so that's kind of but really, I will be the progressive candidate. My record, as well as my stance on issues, particularly big issues like Medicare for All or Green New Deal or the minimum wage, or getting rid of this inherently racist filibuster. These are the things that we need to do. And I'm going to be talking about these issues, not just during the primary campaign, but also during the general election. I want to lead off with Medicare for All because that's something that's very, very personal to me. My wife is recovering from cancer. My mom had cancer, and between the two, they were able, they had the benefit of good health insurance. Right now, 30 million Americans do not have health insurance. And in my book, that is completely unacceptable. When I go to Washington, I don't want to just cover millions of Americans. I want to cover everyone.
Yeah. And Tom, to kind of tie all these things together, Wisconsin, obviously a historic home of the labor movement, also one of the places that's been a battleground for the future of the labor movement. And obviously Republicans have in large part been the aggressors here since the Reagan administration, engaging in aggressive union busting in order to consolidate power in their own hands and the hands of corporate bosses. But Democrats have also kind of abandoned labor and would talk a good game, but, under the Obama administration, the Employee Free Choice Act, he, in theory, supported it, didn't lift a finger to get it passed. What do you think Democrats need to do in terms of organized labor, and how central do you think that is in order to build a working class coalition on the left?
Well, I think that's going to be the biggest. I think it's going to be the biggest issue, and it's something for a number of reasons the Democrats have unfortunately ignored. Consistently, there have been Democratic presidents who have championed free trading here in Wisconsin. That has been the reason why we've lost thousands of jobs. But we're not talking just about individual issues, whether it's minimum wage, whether it's trade, any of those things. We have a once in a lifetime, perhaps a once in a 2 or 3 generation opportunity to pass real pro-union labor reform. The last time we had anything that was significant was the Wagner Act, which was 90 years ago. We need to seize this moment. We need to focus on organized labor. That is the reason why the middle class is what it is. This is the story of growing the middle class here in the Fox Valley. That is the story across this country. And now, if you want to talk about manufacturing, if you want to talk about the American economy and what we can do to close income inequality and made progress there, organized labor is the solution, because that is going to be the way that we're going to grow American manufacturing, which is something that has been a big part of our economy and can still be a big part of our economy, creating and sustaining good paying family supporting jobs. So Long or short, organized labor and focus on those economic bread and butter issues has got to be the focus. I want to say one more thing, too. I am the son of a Lutheran pastor, and my dad once told me, he said that that in politics, if you've missed the economic argument, you have missed the entire debate. We need to focus like a laser on the bread and butter issues that affect working families. And I'm the candidate that can do that. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a millionaire. I understand these issues. I'm not out of touch with the people of Wisconsin. I know what is important. And when I get to Washington, I'm going to fight very hard for those issues and make positive economic and social constructive change for not just Wisconsinites, but across the country.
Well, we're certainly going to continue to cover your race here. Good luck to you. Tell people, where do you want them to buy the book?
Okay, it's onedaystrongerbook.com. That's onedaystrongerbook.com. It's a great website because my dear wife did it herself. So
you might be a little biased there, but
that's right.
The book is phenomenal. I highly recommend it to people. It's an important story for people to understand. Tom, thank you and good luck.
Good to be on.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.